The Linguaverse Episode 8, Reclaiming the Tongue Arc 1 Finale, The Roots of Language and the Birth of the Spell. Welcome back to the Linguaverse. This episode brings us to the close of Arc 1, The Roots of Language and the Birth of the Spell. Across this arc, we've asked what language really is, traced its memory through the body, explored how words become spells, mapped the somatic lexicon, followed mimicry and mirror neurons, seen how semantics and pragmatics shape reality, and stepped into the charged territory of taboo and transgression. Now we arrive at the threshold of reclamation. If words can wound, silence, and enslave, can they also heal, liberate, and restore? If language has been used as a tool of control, distortion, and fear, how do we take it back? What does it mean, at the most human level, to reclaim the tongue? This episode is about recovery, not only the recovery of individual words, but of voices, identities, and entire worlds silenced by power. To reclaim the tongue is to resist erasure, to confront shame, and to declare, "This language is mine again, this voice is alive, this body speaks truth." The stolen tongue. Before we can reclaim the tongue, we need to recognize how it has been stolen. Because throughout history, language has not only been a medium of communication, but also a battlefield of power. To silence a tongue is to silence a people. To erase words is to erase worlds. And to forbid certain ways of speaking is to fracture identity itself. The politics of erasure, one of the oldest strategies of domination, is linguistic erasure. Empires, colonizers, and authoritarian regimes have long understood that to truly conquer, you must control not only land or labor, but language. Colonial suppression of indigenous languages. Across the Americas, Africa, and Australia, children were punished for speaking their mother tongues. Boarding schools cut children off from Navajo, Cree, Maori, or Yolu Matha. Language was beaten out of mouths so that new identities could be imposed. Europe's silenced tongues. In Wales, the Welsh knot was hung around children's necks if they dared speak Welsh in school. In France, Breton and Occitan were labelled patois, inferior dialects not worthy of preservation. Modern echoes. In many countries today, minority tongues are tolerated but marginalised, dismissed as provincial, or reduced to folklore, while dominant languages are framed as progress. Each act of erasure is an act of theft. It takes more than vocabulary. It strips songs, prayers, jokes, rituals, the embodied memory of a people. Mother tongue, more than grammar. The phrase mother tongue itself reveals what is at stake. A first language is not only a grammar system, but a voice of care. It is lullabies, scolding, stories, and the tone of intimacy. When that tongue is suppressed, the wound runs deep. Children raised without their ancestral languages often describe feeling cut in two, able to communicate in the dominant tongue, but unable to fully express what they feel. The fracture is not only cultural, but somatic. This fracture ripples across generations. Grandchildren of silent speakers inherit the gap. They may speak fluently in a global language, yet feel a ghostly absence, a missing cadence in the bones. The psychology of shame. The theft of language works most effectively when paired with shame. Punished children learn not only fear, but contempt for their own words. Accents become marks of inferiority. Dialects are mocked until their speakers hide them, or only use them in private. This shame becomes internalized. Even after external punishment fades, silence remains. People begin to believe they are better off without their own tongue. They police themselves, raising children in the dominant language, leaving ancestral speech to wither in memory. The tongue and identity language is not just a tool, it is a lens. Some languages encode time as linear, others as cyclical. Some have dozens of words for snow, others for love, others for shame. Some cultures orient identity around verbs, what we do, others around nouns, what we are. When a language is suppressed, an entire worldview is diminished. The loss is not only linguistic, but ontological, a narrowing of what can be thought, felt, imagined. Reclaiming the tongue, then, is not nostalgia. It is survival. It is the resistance to monoculture, the linguistic equivalent of rewilding an ecosystem. Examples of the stolen tongue today: 1. Revival in indigenous communities. Hawaiian, Mohawk, and other tongues are now taught in immersion schools known as language nests, where children grow up again hearing ancestral speech. 2. Political assertion. Catalan in Spain is more than a language, it is a statement of sovereignty. To speak is to resist assimilation. 3. The everyday silence. In many families, parents still speak ancestral languages, but children reply in the dominant one. This is not laziness, but the shadow of suppression, shame carried unconsciously across generations. Personal observation. I remember the shock of discovering the etymology of the word corporation. From Latin corpus meaning body, a corporation was legally defined as a dead body entity, something lifeless, yet granted the rights of the living. That etymology revealed how words conceal philosophies. Entire systems of power are hidden in plain sight within language. If a single word like corporation can carry centuries of ideology, how much more do whole tongues carry the weight of entire worlds? This is why the theft of a language is not simply about communication. It is about the theft of imagination, identity, and worldview itself. Reflection prompt. Which words, accents, or ways of speaking were you taught to suppress? Was it a dialect, a slang, a phrase dismissed as improper? What part of yourself did you leave behind when you silenced it? Practical activity. Choose one word from your ancestry, your community, or your childhood that you no longer use. Write it down, say it aloud. If its meaning is unclear, research its etymology. If it is familiar, use it today in speech. Notice how it feels in your mouth, your throat, your breath. Notice whether it feels foreign, intimate, heavy, or alive. Sometimes reclamation begins not with a full language, but with a single word whispered back into being. Speaking the unspeakable, some words are not stolen from us outright, they are twisted. They are burdened with fear, shame, or stigma until speaking to them becomes dangerous. They live in the category of the unspeakable. To speak such words is to risk misunderstanding, ridicule, or outright persecution. Yet these same words often carry dormant truths. Reclaiming them does not erase their history, but it transforms their charge. It turns the unspeakable into a tool of liberation. The case of anarchist, few words illustrate this better than anarchist. Semantically, it comes from the Greek anarchos, literally without rulers. Not without order, not without cooperation, but without rulers. At its root, it means a condition where no one claims the right to dominate others. And yet, pragmatically, the word has long been weaponized. In the mainstream imagination, anarchist means chaos, bomb-throwing, destruction. Newspapers in the 19th century sensationalized anarchist uprisings to paint them as existential threats to society. During the 20th century, anarchists were portrayed as either violent extremists or naive dreamers, too impractical to take seriously. Even now, the word triggers suspicion. Call yourself an anarchist at a dinner party, and people may imagine Molotov cocktails, black masks, or riots. The semantic meaning, without rulers, has been almost completely overshadowed by the pragmatic frame of violent disorder. This is what happens when a word is made taboo. Its literal roots are buried under layers of manipulation until only distortion remains. Taboo is social control. Why did anarchist become so vilified? Because it was dangerous, not in the sense of terrorism, but in the sense of challenging power at its foundation. To claim that people can organize themselves without rulers is to threaten kings, emperors, governments, and corporations. It is to declare that hierarchy is not inevitable, that authority can be dismantled, that obedience is not destiny. No wonder the word had to be demonized. By painting anarchists as monsters, rulers protected the necessity of rule itself. The taboo around the word functioned as social control, silence the idea by silencing the name. This is the same mechanism we saw with heresy. Words that name dangerous alternatives are not argued with. They are vilified, ridiculed, and suppressed. The personal weight of taboo words. Even if you don't identify as an anarchist, you likely carry words that function in the same way. Terms you avoid because of their stigma. Words that could, if spoken, change how others see you. Some avoid political labels, socialist, feminist, pacifist, because they've been warped into caricatures. Others avoid identity terms, disabled, addict, survivor, because they've been framed with pity or contempt. Still others avoid spiritual or philosophical terms, mystic, witch, prophet, because they've been tied to superstition or madness. Each of these words functions like anarchist, semantically straightforward but pragmatically weaponized. To reclaim them is to peel back the distortion and re-inhabit their roots. The nervous system of speaking the unspeakable to say a taboo word aloud can feel like breaking a spell. The body anticipates danger, breath shortens, the tongue hesitates, shame rises. This is not imagination, it is conditioning. Generations of stigma lodge in the nervous system. Speaking the unspeakable is a somatic act as much as a linguistic one. But the moment the word passes the lips, something shifts. The spell cracks. The body realizes that no lightning strike follows, no exile is absolute. Each repetition weakens the taboo. Each utterance reclaims a fragment of power. Reclaiming anarchist. In recent decades, activists and thinkers have begun reclaiming anarchist, not as chaos, but as care. Anarchist communities experiment with mutual aid, cooperative living, and decentralized organization. Writers emphasize that anarchism is not the absence of structure, but the absence of domination. The word is spoken with pride in some spaces, not to glorify violence, but to declare faith in human self-organization. By reclaiming the word, its users strip it of imposed stigma and restore it to its roots. They reframe it as not unspeakable but essential. The broader pattern, the story of anarchist, is one among many. The mechanism is the same whenever a word is made unspeakable. 1. Identify a threatening idea. 2. Demonize its name. 3. Condition fear around speaking it. 4. Silence the idea by silencing the word. But the cycle can be broken. By speaking the unspeakable, by reclaiming words, we show that power's grip is not absolute. Reflection prompt. What words feel unspeakable in your world? Which ones do you hesitate to claim, even if their literal meaning aligns with your truth? Practical activity 1. Choose one word you find difficult to say. 2. Look up its etymology. Discover its literal roots. 3. Write down the difference between what it means in the dictionary and what it means in your culture. 4. Speak it aloud 3 times. Notice your body's reaction. This is not about adopting labels carelessly. It is about realizing that no word's meaning is fixed, and that to reclaim the unspeakable is to reclaim a part of yourself. The tongue as healing instrument, survivor versus victim. I've always felt that words can cut as deeply as knives. They don't just sit on the surface of conversation. They reach into the body, where they can either wound or heal. I know this because I've lived both sides of it. There was a time in my life when words were stripped from me. Not literally, I could still speak, but what I said, how I named my reality, was constantly twisted. When you've been around narcissistic people, you'll understand what I mean. They use language like a weapon. A word you thought was solid suddenly collapses in your mouth. The ground of meaning shifts so quickly that you doubt your memory, your feelings, your sanity. I remember how often I was told, "You're too sensitive." It's such a small phrase, but loaded with venom. It doesn't sound cruel on the surface, but it's designed to undo you from the inside. It tells you that what you feel isn't valid, that the very act of noticing harm is weakness. Over time, phrases like that turn your tongue against you. You swallow your words, then your feelings, until silence feels safer than speaking. And yet, I've also lived the other side. I've felt the moment when a word once used as a weapon becomes something I hold in my own hands. A word like victim, a word like survivor. Victim or survivor. I used to resist the word victim. It felt heavy, humiliating, almost like admitting defeat. The Latin root, victima, literally means sacrifice, a body offered up, powerless, consumed. And that's what I felt when harm was done to me. That I'd been consumed, that my life wasn't my own. But then came the turning point. I realized that denying victimhood was just another form of silence. I couldn't call myself a survivor without first facing the reality of being a victim. To say I was a victim is not weakness, it's the truth. It honors the wound. It marks the harm for what it was. And then later, the shift to survivor. That word carried breadth, movement, and endurance. It told me I wasn't only harmed, I was still here. My tongue, my voice, my story still alive. That single shift of naming reconfigured my nervous system. Victim tightened my chest. Survivor expanded it. The narcissist's inversion. But here's the cruel trick of narcissists. They won't even let you have that language. They hijack it. They flip the narrative so that they are the victim and you become the abuser. They use projection like a mirror turned backwards. You're manipulative. You're cruel. You're the one who's hurting me. I heard those words so many times that they started to seep into me. They make you doubt yourself. They trap you in endless defense. You try to explain to justify, but every sentence becomes quicksand. The more you speak, the deeper you sink. And when they take the label of victim for themselves, they leave you nameless. You're stripped not only of safety, but of the words to describe what's happening. And without words, there's no anchor, no healing. That's why I often describe narcissistic abuse as a kind of linguistic trauma. It's not just the events, it's the collapse of meaning itself. Your tongue becomes unsafe territory. The silence that follows in the aftermath, silence took root in me. I carried words inside that I couldn't release. Every time I tried to speak about what had happened, I felt the old conditioning rise, doubt, shame, the fear of being told I was overreacting. I wrote about this in My Inner Child Was Broken, how silence becomes a second prison after the first wound. Even when the abuser is gone, their voice lingers in your head, policing your tongue. And in The Unfiltered Human on the Fringe, I spoke about emotions like envy, lust, anger, feelings I was told to keep hidden. Language was always at the center of it. What I was allowed to say, what I had to bury, what was twisted against me. It took me years to see that reclaiming my tongue wasn't just about speaking again. It was about speaking the truth. Not their inverted truth, not the narrative of shame, but my own. Reclaiming through naming. The act of naming is radical. To say I was abused, to say I was a victim, but now I'm a survivor. To call gaslighting what it is. To reject the projection and hold on to your own truth. Each word spoken aloud cracks the spell. At first it feels terrifying, like the ground will open up beneath you. But slowly the nervous system learns. No punishment comes. No exile. No lightning strike. Only freedom. I remember the first time I said out loud, I survived narcissistic abuse. The word abuse stuck in my throat. For years I'd been told it wasn't abuse, that I was dramatic, that I was cruel for even suggesting it. Saying it aloud felt almost dangerous. But once the word left my mouth, I felt my body shift. My shoulders loosened, my breath deepened. My tongue belonged to me again. Language as medicine. This is why I believe the tongue is a healing instrument. Not in some abstract sense, but in the most visceral way. Words reorganize the nervous system. They externalize chaos. They weave coherence out of fragmentation. That's why therapy is often about storytelling. Why rituals of confession and prayer exist. Why poetry can take unbearable pain and make it bearable. When silence is broken, the body remembers it can breathe. Scenario, survivor versus victim in inversion. Imagine this. You finally find the courage to say, I was hurt. I was a victim. And immediately, the other person shoots back. No, you're the one who hurt me. That's the inversion. It's linguistic theft. It's a way of shutting down your healing before it begins. And it works unless you reclaim the words, unless you take them back into your own mouth and redefine them on your own terms. Reflection prompt. What word have you been forbidden to use by a narcissist, by a parent, by society? Was it abuse? Was it victim? Was it survivor? How would it feel to say it aloud now, without fear, without shame? Practical activity 1. Write down one word that was twisted against you. 2. Write what it meant in their mouth, how they used it to shame or silence you. 3. Now write what it means in your mouth. Define it in your own terms. 4. Say it aloud 3 times. Listen to the vibration in your body. This is how reclamation begins. Not with a dictionary, not with permission, but with the courage to speak what was once unspeakable. Collective reclamation anchor, we the people. I've always believed that language is not just personal, it's collective. My own healing journey has shown me how reclaiming words at an individual level can free the tongue, but I've also seen how whole groups reclaim words together. When this happens, the effect is magnified. It's not just one person speaking a forbidden truth. It's a chorus, a chant, a declaration that refuses to be silenced. There's a particular charge to collective speech. You feel it in your chest when thousands of voices echo the same phrase. You feel it in your bones when a crowd moves with one rhythm. Whether in protest, prayer, or song, collective language has a way of bypassing the mind and going straight into the nervous system. It's not just words anymore, it's an embodied spell. The power of we the people, on the surface, it's simple, a collective noun, an assertion of unity. But over time, it has become far more than that. In political contexts, we the people is invoked to claim legitimacy, to say, we represent the true voice, the true will, the true heart of society. I've noticed how powerful that phrase feels in the mouth. We expand the circle, the people ground it in flesh and blood. But there's also a danger here. Who defines us? Who gets counted in and who gets left out? I've seen it weaponized. We the people used to silence dissent to say, if you don't agree with us, you're not part of the people. It can be an inclusion, but it can also be an exclusion. It can liberate, but it can also control. The collective spell. This is the paradox of collective reclamation. The same phrase can be both healing and manipulative. In protests, chants like "We shall not be moved" or "Black Lives Matter" have a liberatory power. They reclaim words and identities once used to oppress, transforming them into strength. In authoritarian contexts, slogans like "One Nation Under" or "For the People" can be used to demand conformity, suppressing difference in the name of unity. The nervous system doesn't always distinguish between these. Collective rhythm, repetition, and volume carry their own spell. Whether for liberation or control, the body feels the same intensity, personal realization. I remember the first time I found myself swept up in a collective chant. I wasn't even sure I agreed with every part of the cause, but when the words echoed around me, something inside shifted. The rhythm carried me, my body vibrated with the repetition. That's when I realized how fragile individual resistance can be when faced with collective speech. But I also realized the reverse, how collective speech can carry individuals into courage they didn't know they had. For someone like me, who had often been silenced at times, hearing my voice disappear into the collective was strangely freeing. Alone, I might hesitate to speak. In a group, my voice was part of a wave that couldn't be stopped. The double-edged sword. This is why reclaiming collective phrases is so vital. They will always exist. Groups will always chant, always speak in rhythm, always create slogans. The question is whether those slogans are dictated from above or grown from below. Take "We the People" again. When spoken by politicians, it can feel hollow, even manipulative. But when spoken in grassroots movements, it feels alive. The same words, two very different meanings. That's the dance between semantics and pragmatics again. Dictionary meaning versus lived context. Collective reclamation as healing for me. Collective reclamation also touches the wounds of shame. Shame isolates. It convinces you that your voice doesn't matter. But when you join a collective chant, shame dissolves. Your voice is carried by others. The nervous system registers belonging. This is why so many healing movements center on group language. Group therapy, prayer circles, even anonymous meetings where people say together, "My name is." The collective reclaims what the individual could not. Repetition and rewiring. One of the things I've learned in studying linguistics and the nervous system is how repetition rewires us. The brain is shaped by what we repeat. Collective reclamation harnesses this. By repeating the same words together, new neural pathways are carved. That's why collective phrases are so sticky. They don't just describe, they install themselves in memory. Think of "Yes, we can." Think of "Power to the people." Think of "We the people." These aren't just slogans, they're neurological anchors. My own reclamation. For a long time I struggled to say "we." My language was trapped in isolation, silence, self-protection. But slowly I began to reclaim the plural. In conversations, in communities, in shared spaces where my voice was met, not mocked. Speaking, We, after years of isolation, felt dangerous at first, like surrendering control, but it became healing. It taught me that voice doesn't only belong to the self, it belongs to the collective. To reclaim language for myself was one thing. To reclaim it with others was another level of liberation. Reflection prompt. What collective phrases have you found yourself repeating? Did you ever stop to ask what they meant, semantically and pragmatically? Were you carried by their power, or did you feel manipulated by them? Practical activity this week. Choose one collective phrase you've heard: we the people, stay safe, or maybe power to the people. 1. Write its dictionary meaning. 2. Write how it was used in your context. 3. Ask yourself, did it include me or exclude me? Did it liberate or constrain? 4. If it feels empowering, speak it aloud in a group, or even alone in repetition, and notice what happens in your body. If it feels manipulative, reclaim it by redefining it in your own words. Collective reclamation is about refusing to let slogans dictate meaning from the top down. It's about seizing them, reshaping them, speaking them in ways that liberate rather than constrain. And it's about remembering that the tongue is not only individual, it is collective. Sometimes the most powerful reclamation doesn't happen in solitude, but in chorus. The future tongue, neologisms, the mirror linguistic hypothesis, and nervous system language in action. I've come to believe the future of language isn't just new words, it's new uses of words. Not only what we say, but how we say it inside bodies, rooms, and relationships. If Arc 1 has shown me anything, it's this. The tongue can be stolen, distorted, tabooed, and it can be reclaimed. The next step is intentional design language that changes state as reliably as a key turns a lock. 2 pillars carry this forward for me. 1. The mirror linguistic hypothesis, MLH, my working hypothesis that children and adults learn not only the dictionary of words, but the body feel of words by mirroring caregivers' emotional signals. The meaning that sticks is not just semantics, it's the somatic signature that accompanied the word when we first learned it: face, tone, pace, breath, and proximity. We inherit not only vocabulary, but visceral valence. 2. Nervous system language, NSL, implementation, a practical method for retagging words with new somatic meanings through co-regulation, prosody, gesture, pacing, and choice. It's language as statecraft in the nervous system sense. We speak to shift physiology from threat towards safety, from collapse toward capacity, from agitation toward directed energy. This is where I want to live creatively, inventing a future tongue that is precise, humane, and embodied. New words are part of it, neologisms, but so are new rituals of speech, new defaults in how we open or close conversations, how we give a boundary, and how we mark repair. I'll map the ideas, then walk you through a full scenario: an upset child not steered towards shutdown, but guided into positive arousal; elation, play, directed hyperenergy, not calm down as a command, but channel up as a skill. 1. The mirror linguistic hypothesis, MLH claim. The somatic meanings of words are acquired primarily through mirroring. We pair a word with the caregiver's visible state, face, voice, breath, posture, and with the felt state that rises in us while we hear it. Across thousands of repetitions, the nervous system learns what this word does to me. Later, that word can re-evoke the state like a button. Example: if behave always arrived tight-jawed, sharp-eyed, and cold-voiced, the body learned that behave predicts threat and shame. If try again arrived warm-voiced with a micro-smile and patient tempo, it encoded safety and agency. 2 phrases, 2 biologies, predictions. The same sentence with different prosody yields different physiological outcomes: heart rate variability, muscle tone, breath. Changing delivery, tone, tempo, face, distance, over time retags a word's valence. Peer and media voices can overwrite earlier tags, why slogans, teachers, and coaches matter. Use. The mirror linguistic hypothesis doesn't just explain how we got here, it tells us how to rewrite. If meaning is partly somatic and mirrored, we can repair words with new states through practice. 2. Nervous system language, NSL implementation. The method NSL isn't a script. It's a set of levers you can dial with any sentence. Prosody, low, warm, and unhurried signals safety. Clipped or rising sharp signals threat. Pace, slow the rate 10, 20% and extend exhalations, your breath entrains theirs. Posture and proximity, get lower, eye level, soften shoulders, angle body slightly, not squared off. Gaze, soft and intermittent, not drilling. Label and normalize. This is big energy, not you're out of control. Choice within a frame, 2 good options. Do we stomp or sprint? Inside a clear boundary, I won't let you throw. Co-action, let's do it together, turns command into companionship. Positive channeling, don't only downregulate, learn to aim the energy. I think of these as counterspells, not to dominate, but to redirect a state toward connection and capability. 3. Neologisms for the future tongue. A starter kit, somatogloss, the felt side of speech, the body texture a word evokes. Retagging, systematically pairing a word with a new prosody ritual so its body meaning changes. Co-reg scripts, short, repeatable phrases married to breath and gesture that reliably shift state. Signal hygiene, keeping your tone, pace, face congruent with your words. No sugarcoating with a threatening voice. Mirror phrases, lines that reflect sensation before guiding behavior. Your body has so much zoom right now. Channel up. Skills for converting agitation into playful power rather than forcing collapse. Benevolent boundaries. I won't let you, said in a warm, containing voice that preserves dignity. Repair rituals. The words breath posture we use to close the loop after rupture. Short, embodied, repeatable. These aren't just cute labels. They're handles you can grab when the room is messy and your mind is blank. 4 scenario. The upset child from meltdown to elation hyperplay setting. Late afternoon. The child's toy won't work and the snack is delayed. You see flushed cheeks, quick breath, fists tight. You feel your own chest tighten. You're tired too. Common trigger words that escalate threat neuroception. Calm down. Command plus implied criticism. Behave. Shame tag. Stop crying invalidation. You're fine. Reality denial. Don't be dramatic. Shame plus abandonment cue. Each phrase carries a fight-flight edge. The child's system hears danger to belonging and surges further. Let's run the nervous system language, version step by step, deliberately aiming up, playful arousal, instead of down, collapse. Step 0, my state first, 5-15 seconds. Exhale longer than you inhale, e.g. 4 in 6 out, twice. Drop shoulders, unlock jaw, unpin the brow. Quietly name my state. I'm frustrated and tired and I can steady. Internal note. Micro-intention, connection before correction. Why? Your nervous system is the tuning fork. Polyvagal-wise, your prosody and exhale are the fastest cues of safety in the room. Step 1, enter their world, the mirror phrase, kneel or sit to meet eyes. Whoa, this is big energy. You really wanted that to work. Your body is saying, this matters. Why? You mark mattering and sensation before behavior. The amygdala gets a seen signal, threat lowers a notch. Step 2, offer channel up options, choice within a boundary. I won't let you throw the toy. I will help you move this big energy. Do you want to stomp it out 10 times, or do rocket breath? Should we shake like wet dogs for 15 seconds, or do a pillow squeeze? You model one quickly. Do it with them. Keep voice play warm, tempo steady. Why? Choice restores agency. Co-action prevents isolation. We're not shoving down, we're aiming the surge. Step 3, cross the threshold, complete a physical arc. Pick one option and complete it fully. Count it out, name the body. 10 stomps, heels down, boom, boom. Rocket breath, hands on belly, whoosh up, shoe down. Why? Completing an arc lets the sympathetic charge discharge without shame. The vagal brake re-engages through breath and rhythm. Step 4, name the shift, micro-celebration. You moved it. Feel that? Breath is slower. Your hands softened. Your face changed. You shifted your state. Why? You are re-tagging the meaning of energy, from bad behavior to a skill I can steer. Dopamine goes to learning, not to conflict. Step 5, invite elation, directed hyperplay. Now that the charge isn't wild, channel upward into joy. Want to zoom this energy to the garden for 3 laps of lightning. 2 minutes of couch crab scuttle, then we build the track. Show me your fastest rocket 10 seconds, go. Set a timer. Keep the boundary alive. No throwing, I'll keep you safe. Let the body win at intensity. Why? Many meltdowns are orphaned vitality, energy with nowhere to go. If you can validate plus direct it, it flips to delight. Step 6, close with a repair ritual. We did it. Big energy safely moved. Fist bump hug if welcome. You knew what to do with your body. Proud of you. Next time you feel it rising, what's your first move, stomp or rocket? Why? Ritual encodes memory. Next time the word stomp carries a felt map, somatogloss updated. The neurostory under the hood, brief, plain spoken. Neuroception, the body's threat detector, scans face voice gesture first. Your warm prosody tells their system, belonging is safe. Labeling sensation dampens amygdala reactivity. Naming is taming. Rhythmic movement plus extended exhale recruits the ventral vagal system, social engagement, and steadies heart-breath coupling. Choice plus success bumps dopamine in goal circuits. We paired energy with mastery. Micro-celebration consolidates the pattern. Next time, the brain is faster to choose a channel up route. None of this requires jargon in the moment. I'm describing it here because it helps design language that works. 5. The counterspell kit. What to say instead. Instead of calm down, try. Let's move this big energy, stomps or rocket breath. Instead of behave, try. I won't let you hurt things. I'll help your body aim. Instead of stop crying, try. Those tears are telling us something. Breathe, then we'll listen. Instead of you're fine, try. This is hard and you're safe with me. Instead of don't be dramatic, try. You feel a lot and you can steer it. I'll show you how. These are tiny switches. But each one retags meaning and trains a different body story. 6. Extending nervous system language. NSL beyond childhood. Teams, partners, self-talk. Teams, classrooms open with a co-reg script. Let's all take a long exhale. Arrive here. Boundaries as benevolence. I won't let us talk over each other. I'll call a pause and return to the cue. Warm, clear, no threat. Name state shifts. That was tense and we repaired in 3 minutes. Noted. Partners mirror phrase first. I hear your urgency. It matters. Boundary with care. I want to hear you and I need no shouting. Can we reset the tone? Repair ritual. I'm sorry for my sharp voice. I can do it slower. Self-talk swap shaming commands, get it together. For channel up cues. There's big energy here, move 60 seconds, then decide. Install a microscript, breathe, name, choose, move, celebrate, even a nod counts. 7. The nervous system language, NSL mini dictionary, seed entry examples, channel up verb, to convert agitation into directed vitality through movement, breath, plus choice. Mirror phrase, noun. A sentence that reflects the felt state before guiding action. Re-tag. To attach a new somatic valence to a word via consistent warm delivery and successful outcomes. Signal hygiene, noun. Keeping tone tempo face aligned with the message, no threats in velvet. Repair ritual, noun. A short repeatables to conflict that restores safety, words plus breath plus touch if welcome. Benevolent boundary, noun. A limit set with care that protects dignity and safety. Add your own. Language evolves fastest when communities co-create. Why does this matter? For the future tongue, words have always built worlds. The future tongue we need will be somatic literate, aware that definitions live in bodies. It will be design-minded, will prototype phrases the way we prototype tools. It will be relational, spoken to create capability, not merely compliance. For me, mirror linguistics hypothesis gives the why we mirror and inherit the body feel of words, and nervous system language gives the how we can retag them with new signals. Together they offer a path out of shame scripts and threat-ridden rooms into households, teams, and publics that know how to speak state, not to manipulate, but to befriend the nervous system. I don't want a world where children learn that calm means shrink yourself. I want one where calm means you have choices, and energy doesn't mean bad, it means aim. I want adults who can say, I won't let you hurt me, and I'll stay warm while I say it. I want meetings that begin with breath and end with a clear repair. I want a lexicon that brings dignity back to the body. That's the future tongue I'm building toward, one counterspell, one retagged word, one repaired moment at a time. Reclaiming the tongue is not a neat little exercise. It's not a linguistic curiosity to be tucked away on a shelf. It's a living practice. For me, it's been the difference between silence and expression, between shame and dignity, between surviving life and actually living it. This episode has carried us through the paradoxes of naming, how the words victim and survivor can both constrict and liberate, how narcissists and manipulators can weaponize language until reality itself collapses, and how, slowly, carefully, we reclaim words as medicine. We stepped into the taboo, exploring how even the word anarchist, so often loaded with fear, can be re-seen, re-voiced, and transformed. We turn to the collective, feeling the charge of phrases like we the people, recognizing how group language both liberates and imprisons, and how reclamation is never just an individual act, but a chorus. And then we imagined a future tongue, the mirror linguistic hypothesis, nervous system language, a lexicon designed not for control, but for connection, dignity, and healing. That is the map of this episode. But the truth is, each of these pieces is more than theory. They are lived realities. They are the scars and the recoveries in my own life. They are the words I was forbidden to speak, the silences that suffocated me, the moments of reclamation where breath and voice returned to me. The arc of the episode, let's pull the threads together. We began with the intimate, the tension between victim and survivor. Those two words mark a crucial threshold in healing. To say the victim acknowledges the wound, the truth of harm. To say survivor reclaims agency, asserts endurance. Both are necessary, and the shift from one to the other mirrors the shift from silence to speech. But abusers, narcissists in particular, know the power of words. They twist them. They project. They invert. They steal the role of victim for themselves and push the true survivor into silence. This inversion is one of the cruelest tricks of all. It robs us not just of safety, but of the very ability to name reality. For years, I lived in that inversion. I doubted my memory, questioned my emotions, and distrusted my tongue. Reclaiming those words, naming abuse for what it was a radical act. From there, we stepped into taboo, using the anarchist as our anchor, a word so often framed as dangerous, chaotic, and destructive. Yet when reclaimed, it becomes a banner of freedom, mutual aid, decentralization, and autonomy. This is the paradox of language. The same word can enslave or liberate, depending on who wields it and in what context. Then we turn to the collective, we the people, a phrase with enormous power. On one hand, a rallying cry of democracy and solidarity. On the other hand, a tool of exclusion, weaponized to silence dissent. I shared how my own voice, once silenced, found strange liberation in collective speech, how chanting with others dissolved shame, how repetition rewired my nervous system, how belonging reshaped my relationship to we. Collective reclamation reminds us that words are never only ours. They live between us, in groups, in rituals, in songs. And then, finally, the future tongue. This was the boldest step of all, to imagine not just reclaiming the old words, but inventing new ones. Somatogloss, co-reg scripts, mirror phrases, signal hygiene, retagging, nervous system language as a whole discipline. These are seeds of a lexicon designed not to dominate, but to heal. And through the scenario of the upset child, I showed how language can shift not toward collapse, but toward playful energy, elation, and connection. That example wasn't abstract. It was proof that we can speak differently, live differently, and regulate differently. The tongue, when wielded with care, doesn't just describe reality, it reshapes it in the moment. The arc of the series. Now let's zoom back even further, because this episode is not only a conclusion, it's the closing of Arc 1, the roots of language and the birth of the spell. 8 episodes ago, we began by asking the most basic question: what is language? We looked at its roots, its history, and its evolution. We explored how the tongue remembers, carrying not just dictionary meanings, but the echoes of caregivers' tones, emotions, and bodies. We moved from symbols to spells, recognizing how words have always been magical tools, used to bind and free. We introduced the somatic lexicon, showing how words live in flesh as much as in dictionaries. We examined how mirror neurons and mimicry shape our speech, how semantics and pragmatics reveal the gap between dictionary and life, and how taboo and transgression reveal the limits of what can be said. And finally, here, we have reclaimed the tongue itself. That is the journey of Arc 1. We began with definition. We moved through memory and magic. We entered the body. We explored mimicry. We dissected meaning and context. We confronted taboo. And we ended here in reclamation. The arc has been about more than linguistics. It has been about power, silence, trauma, and healing. It has been about the tongue as both weapon and wand, curse and prayer, prison and key. It has been about recognizing that words are not neutral. They are living forces that shape nervous systems, cultures, and futures. And as we close this arc, I want to leave you with the sense that language is not only inherited, it is ours to reclaim. Closing reflection prompt. Think of one word that has shaped you. It might have been spoken in anger, in shame, in love, in hope. It might be a word you have avoided, a word you have clung to, a word you have struggled against. Now ask yourself, what does this word feel like in my body? Where does it live? Throat, chest, stomach? What is its somatogloss? And then ask, how might I reclaim it? How might I re-tag it, re-speak it, re-own it? Practical activity. This week, choose a word you feel ambivalent about, perhaps weak, selfish, too much, or not enough. 1. Write it down. 2. Write the way it was used against you. 3. Write what it means to you now, or what you want it to mean. 4. Speak it aloud with new tone, new breath, new context. 5. Notice how your body responds. Do this once a day for 7 days. Watch how the meaning shifts. Final words. This arc has been, for me, both an exploration and a reclamation. I've poured into it not only research and reflection, but my own lived experiences, the silences, the wounds, the manipulations, the breakthroughs. If you've been with me since episode 1, you've travelled a long way. If this is your first encounter, know that you've stepped into a conversation that is both ancient and urgently contemporary. The tongue is not neutral, it never has been. It remembers, it mirrors, it casts spells, it wounds, it heals, and now it can be reclaimed. Until next time, stay curious, stay awake to your own language, and let your words be bridges, carrying you from silence into speech, from fracture into wholeness. You've been listening to the Linguaverse. James Miller.